Xander Zulauf is editor emeritus of the Journal of New Jersey Poets from 1989 to 2012, and an editor of the Poets of New Jersey from colonial to contemporary, and that's published by Jersey Shore Publications. In addition to editing the first 10 volumes of the Index of American Periodical Verse from 1973 to 1982, Zulauf has written several books of poetry, which include Sukasuna, New Jersey, by Breaking Point Press, Living Waters, St. Dunstan's Press, and Where Time Goes, Dryad Press. He served as editor of Joe Salerno's two posthumous books of poetry, Dream Paintings from the Heaven of Obscurity and Only Here, Basho in America, and Zulauf's translation of Viente, Poemas de Amor y una canción desesperada, 20 love poems and a song of despair, by Pablo Neruda, were completed while on sabbatical leave from Country College of Morris, where he was teaching English and creative writing since 1973. A Geraldine R. Dodge poet since 1987, he was named the first poet laureate of the Episcopal Diocese of Newark in 1999. And he is married to the photographer Madeline Zulauf. And it's my great pleasure to bring up Xander Zulauf.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. You can bring that mic up a little higher. Thank you for doing that. Make me stand up straight, baby.
We have like several mic stands, and each one's different. There it is.
How are we tonight? Are we good? Good. Okay. That's good. I'd like to read a poem from Lips, the 50th anniversary edition that Laura Boss graciously asked me to contribute to. And so I sent her this. It's entitled, She Called the Eastern Pewee Her Lake George Bird. The eastern pewee is a wonderful bird that has a unique song that goes so it slides down at the end, and it was very present at Lake George, but as a kid I couldn't hear it. My mother would say, "Do you hear the Lake George bird?" I said, kids do that. But then I found out it's a flycatcher, and because of all the outhouses on the campgrounds out there, the flies were pretty prevalent, and the flycatchers were really happy. She called the eastern pewee her Lake George bird. Why she put up with it and us, I would never understand. This is no vacation for me, she said, more than once. As we reveled in the crystal clear lake waters, the icy lake waters that thrilled and changed my 11-year-old life and imagination forever, she hated water. She never learned how to swim. She feared death by drowning. Instead of a resort hotel on a beach with all the comforts of home, and instead of restaurants, she got a tent, an outhouse, a picnic table, a camp stove, and an open stone fireplace, its wood smoke billowing everywhere day and night, that kept a 5-gallon can of water hot for doing dishes, for washing hands, The Chris Craft launch from Bolton Landing first stopped at the ranger station on Glen Island, where we paid $1 a night for a campsite. Then it dropped us off at a dock on Big Burnt with our tent, our canoe, our food for the week, sleeping bags, air mattresses, a laundry basket filled with kitchen gear, and a dishpan. When we went gathering blueberries, we brought them to her. She baked them into a pie in a reflector oven facing the fireplace with no rolling pin. To roll out the dough, she used a ketchup bottle. One night we heard her scream for my dad, and then hysterical laughter. She dropped her lighted flashlight down the outhouse. Our drinking water came from the spring across the lake on the far shore. One afternoon, all 4 of us got in the aluminum canoe and headed to the tiny springs gazebo to collect jugs of icy water flowing freely from the iron pipe beneath it. Dad took the stern. For whatever reason, he let my 6-year-old sister paddle in the bow. My mom sat on the deck in front of Dad, and I lay down in front of her. I had nothing to do except tease my sister. The lake suddenly turned rough with whitecaps. The canoe began rolling and plunging through the waves. I knew I should be paddling instead of my little sister, so I started mocking her attempts to paddle. Suddenly, I got socked hard in the eye with my mother's terrified right fist. We made it to the spring dock without capsizing, filled our water jugs, loaded the canoe. My mother said, "I'm not going. I'll stay here for the rest of the week. But I will not get back in that canoe." A young family pulled up to the dock in their cabin cruiser in time to hear my mother's fierce and final declaration. They offered my mother and sister a ride back to our campsite. They helped my mother and sister out of their boat and onto our dock as we paddled up to it. Why she returned to the islands, to camp year after year, is a mystery to me. She never got into that canoe again, but she returned to her island prison every summer because she knew how much it meant to me. I'd like to read a few poems from Basho in America. I wrote this while I was on sabbatical, as Paul said, and it was just a pleasure. I invited Basho to come to the island on Lake George with me, and we spent a week together. He'd been dead 300 years, but didn't mind. So here are 18 from Basho in America. How foolish to think I am Basho. The traditional way to read is to read them twice, but we don't have enough time. So I'll read them once, let them sink in, I hope. Spider on my pants. Which way are you going? Autumn morning sun breaks through rain clouds, gold beads on pine boughs.
Do that one again.
Autumn morning sun breaks through rain clouds, gold beads on pine boughs.